Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is just a few months away, and with the Definitive Edition we're finally going to be getting answers to so many questions with the extra story. So many things are riding on this additional story, and so many of us want to see connections to the numbered Xenoblade Chronicles entries, Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. But unfortunately in this video, I want to kind of set our expectations in place and maybe just kind of dash a little bit of our dreams. Hey guys, Nishquick here, and like I said, in this video, I want to talk about what all is going to be happening with the extra story and if we should kind of be tempering our expectations. Because with the additional story we're getting in X Definitive Edition, I know it's going to be great, and I know it's going to answer a lot of questions that we have on this game, but I just don't want us to feel disappointed once we finish this game because of it possibly not connecting to the other numbered Xenoblade entries. And honestly, what I'm about to say here might unveil a little bit of an unfortunate reality, and I want to just talk about that with you guys. But before we get started, I want to remind you guys of another unfortunate reality. That is the fact that I'm looking at my YouTube analytics right now, and 86.3% of you guys are unfortunately not subscribed to the channel. So I want to remind you guys to change that reality, just like a Zohar and a Conduit would do a phenomenon phase transition event and bring forth a new reality. Let's swap those numbers from 86.3 not subscribed to 86.3 subscribed. I mean, I know that's a tall task, but I just want to remind you guys, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, let me know down below what you think the extra story of Xenoblade X Definitive Edition is going to be like, and I appreciate any and all support. I'm trying to hit 3,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So before I kind of set our expectations in place, I want to remind you guys of what these connections we are seeing in these trailers to the numbered Xenoblade games are. And right here, I do want to issue a little bit of a spoiler warning. I'm not going to get too deep into Xenoblade X spoilers, but I will be talking about some of the lore and some of the endgame stuff a little bit, so you guys can skip around. I will have a guide on the screen to where you can actually skip to. It might be a little bit later on in the video. I apologize for that, but I do want to be careful for people who are going into this game for the very first time. So to refresh your guys' memory, the big connection that I have noticed and me and my other friends have been talking about is the Ares. So the Ares is this skull over here which is flying, and many of us notice that it has Ouroboros cores, and we see that a lot more prominently in this new footage that we got from Perfectly Nintendo, which is also on the Xenoblade X Definitive Edition Japanese website. I do also want to remind you guys, this original Ares skull, as well as many other story elements and characters being brought into Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, are taken from the cut content seen in the Art of Mira art book. And if you go and look at the Art of Mira art book where it shows the original Ares, here you can see a fully fledged skull with a lot of these similar kind of cores that looks very, very strikingly similar to another gigantic big mech form that we've seen in another Xenoblade Chronicles game. Yes, I am talking about the final ultimate Ouroboros form that we see at the end of Future Redeem that punches Alpha in the face. Another thing we see in the Art of Mira art book here is the cockpit of the original Ares, and it shows that this is a tandem skull and that it is being piloted by two people at once. My theory is that this is going to be piloted by Elma and the lone hero, and this is how they come down to Earth before even the events of Xenoblade X. And of course, this is very reminiscent of an Ouroboros itself. An Ouroboros is in the shape and in the form of a mech, but it is controlled and piloted in tandem by two people, a man and a woman, an anima and the animus, an Agnian and a Kavesi. So aside from the Ouroboros skull and the Ares, another major thing that we recently saw in the overview trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is that we're seeing these kind of black holes and these kind of like rifts that are forming that remind me a lot of Rifts from Future Connected, Black Fog from Future Connected and Future Redeemed, obviously. But on top of that, Nagi and Shosan and a lot of these people are saying that Mira is disappearing. What does that remind you guys of? Well, I do talk about that in a previous video where I analyzed the overview trailer, but of course I am referring to annihilation events from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which are when matter from Bionis and matter from Alres get too close to each other, they will just cancel each other out, because that is just the way of the world within Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, and of course 3. And we see that, of course, with Ouroboros and Mobius as well. When two characters interlink, they can't be interlinked for too long, or else they will cause an annihilation event and destroy themselves as well as surrounding areas around them. We see that with the O and P fight in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. One final connection is the ghosts. The ghosts, in many ways, remind people of Fog Beasts. They remind people of Mobius monsters, and they also sort of remind me of Seraph Angels from Xenogears, but those are a little more loose connections. The more direct connections that we can see from the ghosts are the Gnosis from Xenosaga. Once again, I've not played Xenosaga, please don't spoil anything in the comments down below, but a lot of what the Gnosis seem to be doing in Xenoblade X Definitive Edition in this trailer over here is very reminiscent to what the Gnosis do. They, to my knowledge, either turn other living people into Gnosis, or they just dissolve them into salt, which is what we can see here right now. So right now, I want to give you guys a reminder of how the Xeno series works. You see, Tetsuya Takahashi has a lot of these concepts in his mind, how a lot of these inner workings, a lot of these laws that he has in place for how ether works, how the world works, how a lot of concepts and philosophies and mechanisms take place in these various games and in these various sub-series. And you see that all across the perfect work story that he's been trying to tell in Xenogears, Xenosaga, and Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. And we can see this in something like Future Connected as well. Like, remember, a lot of people during the hype of Future Connected were saying that a lot of these Fog Beasts and this Fog King really remind them of the Gnosis once again. And they were expecting a lot of this concrete answers to be given, a lot of connections to Xenosaga, a lot of connections to Xenoblade 2, because this was even before Xenoblade 3 was announced and released. But we didn't really get a lot of this payoff until Xenoblade 3, and especially in Future Redeemed. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, maybe we aren't going to get all the answers in X Definitive Edition. Maybe we're just going to get teases. Maybe we're just going to see things that remind us of other things that we have seen in other Xenoblade games and other Xeno games in general. But maybe the answers we're looking for may not actually be the answers we're looking for, or they might be given to us in a much later game, which I'll talk to you guys about a little bit later. But one thing I do want to remind you guys of are other Takahashi parallels that he has done in other Xenoblade games to his other series. Like, for example, Takahashi loves to play with the concept of trinities. We see this in Katamoni in Xenogears. Katamoni is composed of the anima, the animus, and the persona, and this biological computer of Katamoni in Xenogears reminds me a lot of the Trinity processor in Xenoblade 2, which includes Ontos, Logos, and Pneuma. We see the concepts of anima and animus prominently throughout the entire Xeno series. Xenogears has anima and animus cluttered throughout the entire game. I don't want to get into that too much right now. Xenosaga probably does too. I haven't played it yet, but I'm very excited to see all that stuff in there. But Xenoblade 1 has Zanza and Maineth and Alvis governing the world. Zanza and Maineth, anima and animus, and you have Alvis in between. Of course, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you have Ontos, Logos, and Pneuma. Pneuma being the anima, Logos being the animus, Ontos being somewhere in between. And of course in Xenoblade 2 we have blades and drivers and all that. Xenoblade 3, of course, I talked about this before, you have interlinking between anima and animus. That's the most obvious thing ever. You have the way Origin is formed, which is a very anima and animus concept. And the parallels go beyond just these things that I'm talking about right now. You see parallel events of Perfect Works adapted into the Xenoblade Chronicles series. You see episode 4 of Xenogears Perfect Works being kind of developed into its own prequel story with Torn of the Golden Country in Xenoblade 2's mythos. And you even see an adaptation of the events of episode 1 and 2 of Xenogears Perfect Works in the very beginning of Xenoblade Chronicles X, when the world is blown up and destroyed by aliens and humans have to search for a new home. So that's a lot of stuff to digest. And what am I getting at here? What am I talking about with all of this? Well, what I do, again, want to remind you guys is Takahashi loves to reuse his concepts. He loves to recycle these kind of themes and concepts and laws and mechanisms and adapt them into new situations and new scenarios. So a lot of what we're seeing with the Ouroboros Skell, with these supposed annihilation events, with these supposed ghosts who remind us of Gnosis, a lot of this reminds us very prominently of the other Xeno games, but I don't know if this is going to be 100% the direct link to the other Xenoblade numbered games, and it very much could, but I just don't want to get my hopes up with this. And one other thing that I've been thinking of and discussing with some of my friends is, what if throughout Xenoblade X Definitive Edition and this extra story, what if all this time we're just gonna get slight hints, but everything won't be fully explained, and it'll be fully fleshed out in a Xenoblade Chronicles X sequel? Like what I mentioned before, Future Connected established the possibilities of connecting Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. It planted the seeds of that possibility, but it wasn't truly understood, and everything didn't truly come together 100% until Xenoblade 3 and then Future Redeemed, where we saw Alpha and the Rifts and the Fog Beasts and all that. And I want to remind you guys of something. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, the main purpose of this remaster and Definitive Edition is to finish the story of Xenoblade X. The main purpose of the extra story of XDE is not really to connect to the other games. If you guys remember, and if you guys know, especially if you guys have played the original Xenoblade X, X had a very unfinished story. It was very fragmented, and the end just kind of ended, and we didn't know half of the answers to the game. And that is really what this Definitive Edition is trying to do. Connecting the games is most definitely a possibility. It can most definitely happen. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to do so. But that's not guaranteed with this game and with this re-release. Just remember, it could very well be a Future Connected situation, and I just don't really want us to get our hopes up. Here's another thing to kind of ruminate on. Origin is what I feel can connect Xenoblade X to the numbered trilogy. I've explained this in other videos that I made about Xenoblade X, particularly the first 2 videos I made about X Definitive Edition about the trailers, and in my EXP podcast with my buddy Dumb Xeno, where we talk about a lot of origin similarities that we see in the story of Xenoblade X. But yes, I do think Origin, and not the Klaus experiment, is what could connect X to the numbered games. But here's another thing. Origin is also what I think will be seen as the future driver of the narrative of the series. You know how the driver for the narrative of Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 was the Klaus experiment. But I think the future of the series is going to be predicated on everything that has happened with Origin, the construction of Origin, the merging of the 2 worlds thanks to Origin, and all of that. I really think Origin is really going to fuel the future of the Xenoblade Chronicles series and the narrative of the Xenoblade series. So another thing that X Definitive Edition's extra story could be doing is this could be a way for us to be reminded of Origin origins mechanisms, and how all of these things work. So it's really fresh in our minds for the future of the series with Xenoblade Chronicles 4 and beyond. But you know what else should be really fresh in your mind? And that is, yes, a reminder that you should give this video a like and subscribe to this channel for more Xenoblade Chronicles X content on the way to the release of the game. I'm actually recording this on March 1st, and we are officially in the month of Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, and I could not be more excited. So yeah, I have a lot more videos in the works, a lot more exciting Xenoblade content in the works, and I will be streaming the game whenever it launches, so get excited for all of that. And to not miss any of that, definitely subscribe to the channel and help me hit my goal of 3,000 subscribers before the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. Anyways, this video was not meant to kind of disappoint anyone or get our hopes down or make us feel like we are over predicting anything or getting our hopes too high or anything like that. I think speculating and just kind of predicting and theorizing about a lot of this is very fun. It is part of the experience of being a fan of a game like this, because especially when we know the mechanisms and we know how a lot of the narrative structure works for these Xeno games, we can actually land at some really substantial conclusions and maybe even get a lot of things right. But I just don't want our hopes to get so high and then for us to get to the end of the extra story and us not getting what we wanted. And I want to wholeheartedly tell you guys, Xenoblade Chronicles X does not need connections to Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 to be a good game or to have a good story. I've been seeing people online lately say that Xenoblade X's story is non-existent, and that's just not true. I never felt that way throughout my entire time playing this game. It's just incomplete. It's not non-existent, it is fragmented and incomplete. And I want to remind you guys that the biggest, most prominent, most gratifying and amazing thing that Xenoblade X is doing, and something I'm very thankful that Monolith Soft is doing with this game, is that they are completing the story. They're going to give us answers for questions that we had in Xenoblade X. And if those things don't connect to the Klaus games, I'm still going to be happy that we have a full, complete story, a full, complete narrative of this game and of this world that's set in the planet of Mira. And a story like this doesn't maybe even need to be on the level of Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. You know, what I love the most about Xenoblade X's story is the world building and the lore and some of the environmental storytelling and how it is very mysterious and very expansive in that way. It feels like a true open world adventure, and it feels like an actual MMORPG style of storytelling, where you have to kind of go out of your way to experience everything and get all the answers that you want. And even though it's not as character and narrative focused as Xenoblade 1, 2, 3, and even Xenosaga 1, 2, 3, and maybe even one of my favorite narratives in all of gaming, Xenogears, I do also notice and do respect that Xenoblade X is still a tried and true Tetsuya Takahashi experience. We see traces of perfect works in here. We see traces of a lot of his philosophies and concepts in here, like the collective unconscious, the anima and the animus, the eternal reoccurrence, and just the general perfect works timeline. We can see a lot of that adapted into this game, and that's so amazing that we can still respect this game, still enjoy this game, even without connections to Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. I know this whole video might sound really crazy and very sacrilegious, coming from someone like me who has made videos like this. Like, literally look at the title of this video. I am now convinced Xenoblade X is canon. Yeah. And even look at this EXP podcast episode I had with Dumb Xeno, the craziest Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition theories. We have a good feeling about this. I do still have a good feeling about this, guys, and me and a lot of my friends have a good feeling about this, but I just kind of want to temper our expectations. But we shall see what we're in store for in the near future. And I'm just kind of making this video to vocalize some thoughts I've had, because I've been talking with some friends about this, and one of my friends I was hanging out with recently was like, hey, what if we really don't get any solid connections? What if it's just teases and everything is answered maybe in an X sequel, or maybe just not answered at all? And I was initially a little bummed and disappointed when I heard him say that, but it is genuinely a possibility. It is genuinely something that can happen, and I just kind of wanted to mentally prepare myself for that. But I'm also mentally preparing myself for someone to just come out of nowhere, turn around, and they have the face of a Malos, and it's not even going to be our player character who can look like Malos. It's going to be actually logos that pops up, and he's going to be like, yeah, this is why your organization is called Beyond the Logos Artificial Destiny Emancipator. Yeah, I'm very excited for this game. I know a lot of you guys are too. I just kind of want to keep our expectations in check, and at the same time, let's go into this having a good time, and whatever we get, at least we get a full and complete Xenoblade Chronicles X story and experience. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me on this ride on the way to Xenoblade X Definitive Edition. Just a reminder, give this video a like, subscribe for more Xenoblade content before the release of X, and of course after the release of X. I'll be streaming this game, I'll be talking about the story content with friends, and yeah, I have a lot to discuss about the future of Xenoblade, Monolith Soft, and I have a lot of Xenogears ideas and videos I want to work on as well, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for watching. This is Nishquick signing off. Have a great day. Go play some great games today. I keep saying this, but just play some Xenoblade to get ready for Xenoblade X Definitive Edition. It's the best way to get ready. And I'm very, very excited and very ready. I'll see you guys in the next one later. Hey guys, this is Nishquick. Thank you so much for watching that video. And if you enjoyed it, check out these two videos on the left and maybe subscribe if you haven't on your way out. And big shout out to all my channel members whose names you can see on the screen right now. I'll see you guys in the next video later.